Hello and welcome to the Rinkside Review, and I'm delighted, in fact, to announce my next guest, Brandon Maxwell. Brandon, how are you today?
Everything's great. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. It's my pleasure. Can you tell us about how you got into hockey in your earliest days?
Well, yeah, when I was younger, my brother's 6 years older than me. Him and his friends, they needed a goalie. So obviously, I had to go in net and they would rip shots at me and, they'd hit me and it would kind of piss me off. So I decided maybe I should just try stopping them because it seems to make them angry. So that's how I got into it that way, as I was just their road hockey goalie. And then um, I loved the equipment. I thought it was really cool, all the colors and the cool masks. Oh, so I would only collect the goalie hockey cards. So when it was time that our team needed a full-time goalie, they went to me because nobody else wanted to. And I said, okay, keep going. And I think in my first game, I let in like 11 goals. So wasn't a great start, but I loved it. And luckily for me, my parents took me everywhere to get better. And yeah, that's how it started.
And is that how you ended up in Cambridge from Winter Park in Florida, moving around, or?
Well, we had a winter house in Florida where my dad would go and my family would go. My dad raced horses.
Mhm.
So the horses would go down to Florida in the wintertime and train. The red clay down there was a lot better for their bodies than being up in Canada where it's cold and having to run on the frozen ground. So we were lucky to move down there. And then once I started going to school, like grade one, out of kindergarten and everything, I was in Canada full time, and my dad would just go down with the horses for the few months in the winter. And um, yeah, Cambridge was the closest big city to me
Mhm.
where we were zoned. So it'd kind of be like, yeah, like how Netchas went from what is it, Novamisto,
Nove Miesto.
yeah, this place to Brno, because that was the closest big team for him. Um, yeah, it's just similar like that.
And I got a message when I announced that you would be coming on the pod from Kevin Churchman, someone who I guess that you know well from his message.
Yeah, me and Kev played. We played together way back for a while. Our families hit it off. We're both some small towns that were and other kids that were on the team. We played on a Toronto team called the Bulldogs in the summer, and that's how we met. Um, our families really hit it off because we'd go to tournaments and stay over. And there was one tournament in Vancouver where we really got close, and just from then on, we played sporadically with each other in the summer, some 3-on-3 tournaments. Yeah, it was great. Kev's a good dude, and I'm happy he's in Czech now. He's actually in my wife's hometown.
Yeah, and he's doing really, really well as well. I mean, I think I was reading about his percentage won in puck battles. I think he's a goalie's dream, really, because he defends that crease area so well out in front. He's tying up sticks. He's doing everything to help the goalie see the puck.
Yeah, he's a beast. I mean, their goalies are having a great season, and Kev's having a great season too.
Yep,
So I wonder how much those have to do with each other.
probably a lot.
Yeah, probably a lot. No, he's a good dude. He's a great teammate, and yeah, they're lucky to have him there. You need guys like that.
And you started your AAA midget career in Cambridge as well, and you had like a really, really good season. The first one that's logged on Elite Prospects, at least, where you
Yeah,
had
that was my last year there.
okay,
We had a pretty good team. I think we had like those are all my best friends growing up. So it was pretty cool to end off playing minor hockey with them. I think we had like 9 guys, 7, 9 guys, something like this, drafted to the OHL, and then we had 4 guys drafted to the NHL, and uh, one of our players, Kyle Clifford, he won 2 Stanley Cups.
Mhm.
So we were a pretty good team. My dad coached that team too, so it was probably my one of my favorite, probably my favorite season ever because I got to play for him and we won a championship. So it was pretty special.
Yeah, that sounds like a really, really special moment. Something that you can share with your dad, you can talk about, and yeah, you can reminisce over.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, we don't forget anybody on that team. I could probably name everybody off every line. It was a really fun year.
Yeah, and one name that really stands out from back then is Ryan Ellis. Just how good was he as a junior?
That was our big piece. So again, summer hockey. We played with Ryan in summer hockey, and he was playing for another team in Toronto, big rival of ours. And we thought he could help us. So he ended up telling that team he wasn't coming back. So in Canada, every year, you have to get released from your home center if you go play somewhere else.
Mhm.
And his home center was just releasing him every year. They didn't know how good he was. But you have to go to your tryouts, right?
Mhm.
If you want to go somewhere else. So he went to his tryouts and he ended up shooting left and wearing like old equipment to get cut. So that team actually cut one of the best defensemen for a while. Um, and he came to us and it was unbelievable. I think I ended up playing his old team and he took a slap shot from the red line and went bar down on their goalie at the Christmas tournament. So they weren't too happy about that.
Can imagine not. I mean, to let
Yeah.
a talent like that leave, um, yeah, you'd be pretty angry, and
Yeah.
especially if he's coming back and haunting you in that way.
Yeah. And the coach's kid was his D partner on that team too. So that was a double.
Yeah. And I really wish him well because, of course, he's been out with some pretty nasty injuries in the last couple of years. And I just hope
Yeah.
that at the very least, if he doesn't make it back to the ice, that he can have a good quality of life beyond hockey.
I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I know how hard he plays and you know how many miles, how many kilometers are on that body for
Mhm.
how hard he was playing out there because he wasn't just an offensive guy. He was blocking a lot of shots on the penalty kill and everything. So he put his all into hockey, and unfortunately, I don't know what it's going to look like playing for the future.
Yeah, we wish him all the best,
Yeah.
though. And what are the core fundamentals that you learned from those days as a goalie?
So when I was younger, I loved Marty Turco. I loved and Broder. I loved how they played. I loved how they helped their team shooting the puck.
Mhm.
So pretty much I worked on puck handling a lot. Uh, my dad would always tell me when you have time on the ice and the coach is explaining the drills or the players are doing something where you're not getting much work, just start shooting the puck, get stronger at that. And I know I used to make some mistakes and I'd get in crap because I maybe passed the puck to the wrong team in the game when I was younger. And you know, I got encouragement from my dad, just keep doing it. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna get older and stronger. And now it's probably, you know, that's the biggest thing that sets me apart from other goalies in Europe. It's
Yeah.
got me a few jobs. Other than that, during the 2003 Stanley Cup when Jaguar had his big run, my dad played junior for the GM for Anaheim, and
Mhm.
he gave him a call to ask like, who's this Jaguar guy and who's his goalie coach? Ended up being Francois Allaire, and then from this we got on a waiting list for his goalie camp, and when the late waiting list didn't go as fast as we thought it would, we ended up getting up just pushed to the front and getting into that school. If I didn't get into that school to work with Francois, I don't know what I would look like as a goalie. I'd probably be doing two pad stacks. Maybe I'd be more like Hasek. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that was a big influence back then.
Yeah, Shigeru was the guy who he was pretty famous for wearing like the massive gear, right? Like they made a big
Well,
deal out of the
so
big pads and
for me, like the cool thing is, I got to train with Corey Crawford, with
Mhm.
Jonathan Bernier, and Jaguar was another guy that was working out at the same gym because for probably since I was 11, I would go to Montreal in the summers, and from when I was playing in what is it? I would say 2013, I would go on my own to Montreal, and I got to train with those guys all the
Wow.
time in the same gym and on the ice. And Jaguar's a big man, and it's how he wears his equipment. It's no bigger. If you saw it and you saw him
Yeah.
put it on, you'd understand. So that was a big eye opener. Is this is a big man, and just how he wears, how he presents himself, made him big.
Yeah, he used his size to his advantage, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And when you were at Cambridge as well, you were drafted by the Erie Otters in the OHL, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was that process like? How did that move?
Oh, that process. They weren't supposed to take me. I was supposed to go one pick later to Windsor.
Oh,
Ellis
okay.
and I were supposed to go to the same team, and then um, once I was finished playing at the U.S. program, I would go play for Windsor. Erie back then was a little bit of a goalie killer. Um, they couldn't get the top players, and for the players, it wasn't so bad because you're not getting 60 shots a night when you're 16 playing against 20-year-olds. So yeah, they weren't supposed to take me. I was supposed to go one pick later, which changed a lot in my life. But yeah, I ended up playing in Kitchener after that, after I got traded. So that's kind of my hometown. I
Mhm.
grew up, in Cambridge, 15 minutes from Kitchener, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and before those days in the OHL, you mentioned the US National Development Program. Uh, it's a it's one of the most prestigious programs in the world. I think. I mean, they produce players in recent years: Austin Matthews, Cole Caulfield, Jack Hughes. Just a few names that spring to the top of my head. How did you get into such a program? And again, what was the process?
Basically, um, for my age, I was the top goalie at that time, and I had two passports. So, I was born in Florida, and my mom's American anyway. Um, so I was able to try out for that team. I had to go try out first, and I had a good camp, and they offered me a spot. My agent did a lot of work to change my mind on going to the OHL to go do this. That'd be a good idea. And it's incredible. The stuff that I experienced was just insane. Working out, living on our own, turning from a boy to a young man. It was a great experience. Funny thing too, before the season, this doesn't normally happen, but normally those players they don't play in the summer tournaments like the Ivan Alinka or
Mhm.
the Five Nations, Four Nations tournaments. But for me, I only wore the USA jersey once prior to that, and they wanted me to play in it again to
Mhm.
get the feeling. So my first tournament was actually in Strakonica,
Oh, wow.
and it was in Czech Republic, and we were in Prague for a few days, and I just remember. Well, the first thing I remember was when I came over, and it wasn't the kind of breakfast that we were used to. You know, the European breakfast was a little bit different, and we just kind of looked like, "Where's our food? Why do we have? Why are we making sandwiches and hard boiled eggs? That's not really what we eat, but it was. We didn't know that at the time that this is what culture was. Um, and then having ketchup brought to us at every single meal because we were the American team and we put ketchup on
Yeah.
everything. It's kind of funny. But I remember saying after when I came home, I was like, I'm going back there one day.
Mhm.
And I never thought I'd go back to play in the league, but I was like, I love that place. I'm going back there. It's Prague is Prague. Prague's beautiful. I know you're in
Yeah.
Brno. Brno's also beautiful. I really like it there too, but it's hard
Do
to
you know
beat.
that the whole country is it's all full of beautiful cities like České Budějovice.
Yeah.
It's beautiful as well with like all of the water around, and even if you go up, you've got the mountains as well near to Poland, and it's the whole country is it's if nature is your thing, it's 100% worth visiting.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. It's a great place.
And little did you know you'd meet your future wife as well, who is Czech in the
I
future. So
know. Just funny how things work out.
it is, yeah. And you mentioned going on international duty. You were with the USA in the under-18s World Junior Championship. Can you talk us through that tournament and what you remember?
Yeah, I remember it was a great tournament. There's so many good players there. I actually ended up tearing my knee in that tournament, so I remember that, but I played through the whole tournament with my knee kind of messed up. Um, and being in Russia for the second time
Mhm.
that season. Um, we played against Russia in the semifinals, and I don't remember a building so loud. It was crazy. Um, we lost the game. We ended up winning against Sweden in the bronze medal game. If you line up those two teams, our team and their team, now you'd have no idea how we beat them. There's so many great players like Eric Carlson and Victor Hedman were D partners, for example. Wow. Markstrom was the goalie. Jakob Silverberg was on that team. There was a few, Pyarvi and Lander. They had a great team, and it was just a cool experience. When you're a kid, you don't really live in the moment so much. You're just kind of thinking like, what's next? What's next? That's one of the times like I wish I could go back to and just enjoy that again. So just a little bit stressful. I was younger than everybody, so I really wanted to help my team out a lot. And it was just an outstanding experience. My dad got to come over. He was scouting, so he got to come over and scout the tournament and see my games. His team was lucky enough to send him on that excursion, so it was good. It was really cool.
Oh yeah, and you missed out the fact that you were named as a top 3 player in the team.
Yeah, you know what? The funny thing is, I just started, so we get watches for that. Pretty nice Tissot watches. And I think last year was the first year I started wearing that watch. Because It's actually a nice watch. And I'm like, I'm tired of looking at this thing in the box. I may as well start wearing it.
Yeah, I mean, that is something to remember it by, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's engraved on the back. I actually have a few guys on my team that were over the years that were in that tournament too, so we reminisce about it a little bit. Back then, the American team were always kind of better than like Slovakia or Germany, so we kicked the crap out of them, and I get to remind them.
Yeah. And on your roster, I noticed quite a few names. Of course, there's 2 that stand out from an NHL perspective. You've got Kyle Palmieri and Cam Fowler. What was it like to play with those guys?
Well, you could tell that they were going to be stars. Palmieri was actually not so known at the time, but me playing against him every day in practice, I was like, this guy's unbelievable. And he's definitely our best player. It's not even close. And then Fowler, everything for that guy is easy. You could see it when we were younger that he's going to play in the NHL for a long time.
Yeah. And 2 other names that are maybe not, NHL level players, but they were very, very good juniors, will be familiar to people watching from the UK. They are Danny Christo and the netminder Mike Clemente as well. What's your relationship like with Mike?
You know what? I actually kind of took Mike's job. So we weren't on the same team. We were around each other, but I moved up and he moved to the younger team. So it wasn't too much of a communication. It was a little bit awkward, but he's a good dude, brilliant human being. And I bet he's doing some really good work these days.
Yeah, he's quit hockey, I think. He retired after his time in the UK league, I think. But yeah, like you say, he was a big character.
Yeah, funny guy. Same with Christo. Christo's story time with Christo. He always have some story for us, so that was always entertaining.
Yeah, he played in Kladno as well, so maybe he'll be familiar to a couple of people from there if they're watching as well.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think it was in the program as well that you were drafted by the Colorado Avalanche in the NHL. So that must have been a very exciting moment of your career. And what is, again, the process like?
Well, that was a little bit of a long day. Going into that year, like I said, I was a top goalie for my age. And as I said, I hurt my knee in that under 18 tournament. And I kind of babied my knee. I was nervous with it, and I didn't work like I should have. At that age, I didn't know that things were going to hurt and that the hurt was fine, that it's going to get better. So I didn't push it as much as I should have, and I went into the season not in the right shape. not in the right mind frame, thinking about my knee. And yeah, I got lit up. I got lit up to start the season, and I've never been lit up in my life before that. So that was some adversity as a 17-year-old. That was tough to deal with. And like at that time, if you wanted to talk to somebody, I needed to talk to somebody then. And if you wanted to talk to somebody, you were like weak, you know? So it was really hard to speak with somebody about like, hey man, like I feel terrible. I'm getting lit up and I need to ask you for a break because I need to get myself back. I need to get back into the right shape. I need to get working again. I need to work with the goalie coach, and I don't want to play games. I need to get everything back. And at that time, like that's what I needed to say, but I couldn't because it was my draft year. I was supposed to go in the first round. I was this, I was that. And I was just like, if I say this stuff, like who's going to believe in me? So it was a really difficult season. And yeah, I slipped to the 6th round that year. And yeah, it was tough. But also then like, it's so cliche to say, but it doesn't matter where you picked. It really doesn't. If you're good, you're good, and they're gonna sign you. And I labeled myself as I'm a 6th rounder now. You know, I was kind of deflating for me. Um, took me quite a while to get over that, like too long. And uh, good things that came out of that is I met our scout that drafted me. Always believed in me. He still does, actually. I still speak to him this day. And that relationship's very important to me. And also the European scout for Colorado gave me my first job in Europe and Robla. So a couple good things came from that.
Yeah, yeah. So that you made some light out of a difficult situation, and I think I know very well that a massive part of net minding is the mental side of it. I mean, like you're always locked in, and if you've got that going on in your own head, and you've got the problem with the physicality with the knee, it's a really difficult place to be in. It's
Oh
and
yeah,
as a
I was
young man
broken.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was broken, so it was tough.
Next up for you was Kitchener. So we spoke briefly about it before.
Yeah.
How was the OHL different to what you'd experienced before?
Well, there's a lot of games. There's 68 games. Also there, that was my hometown. There's a lot of pressure. You know, I've 15 people at every game that know me personally. And at that time, I had a full scholarship to Boston College. I should have taken that. I was not ready to go to the OHL and have 2 seasons and then sign an NHL contract. I wasn't there yet. But all my friends are in the OHL. Everybody was going there. It was the wrong choice by me. I should have went to school and had 4 years to get myself back, take it slowly and develop. Understand it's not a marathon. Or sorry, understand it is a marathon. It's not a race. And when you're young, you're not wise and you don't know these lessons yet. So for me, I've learned lessons the hard way quite often, unfortunately, but I did learn. Going there, it was good. Like I said, basically hometown. I got treated very well. The organization was amazing to me. I played a lot, learned a lot, made some good friends there. And yeah, it could have been more enjoyable if I was better, if I played better. But like I said, I wasn't. It took me quite a while. I'm gonna skip over the Kitchener and go to when I went to Sarnia, and I played really well there. And I was starting to get better in my head at this point. Physically, I was a beast. I was I was in very good shape. Um, met some really. I played with Nail Yakupov. I drove him, and we're still friends. I talk to him all the time. You know, and now it's funny. Over the years, his English gets better and better and better. Now we know each other more and more. It's like when we played against each other, it was just like hockey and Google Translate. And his mom would make us snacks and make us dinner, and we'd have tea and do the Russian sauna and stuff. So that was really cool. Now we talk about everything. So, um, yeah. And then when I went to Mississauga, sorry for hijacking your podcast here.
No, it's fine.
But then when I went to Mississauga, that's when things clicked for me, honestly. Got a goalie coach there. His name is John Elkin. And he fixed me, basically. He basically told me, hey, what you're doing here, this, and this is garbage. It doesn't work. You need to change it or you will not play. And I had nothing to lose, so I just put complete trust in him. He's like, we're going to try to play like this. And I was like, screw it, let's do it. I'll try it. So I ended up playing deeper, losing the poke check because it's not a high percentage play. Being on my feet more, not being so weight heavy in the weight room, not lifting so much, more flexibility, more balance, more core. And yeah, it was a huge turnaround. It took me from my draft year to that year to be fixed, basically, and to be who I was as a goalie and compete. So I was very thankful to work with him there.
Yeah, and the numbers really, really reflect that. Like it was an outstanding year for you in Mississauga. Like
Yeah.
you went to Guelph afterwards.
Yeah. So I had a American League hockey deal. Not I had one American League hockey deal that was like, yeah, you're gonna play here, and then the lockout happened.
Mm-hmm.
And like Grubauer was in the A. There was other guys. Sorry, he was in the Coast. There was other guys that were in the NHL that got sent down to the AHL, and it's just like, I'm not going there to be there for a couple weeks and go there for a couple weeks. Like, this is pretty good hockey. I get to live at home, and I can just be chill for now. Actually, before that, I was with a team in Russia, Novokuznetsk, and I had a good time there. I would have stayed there, except they do some interesting things with contracts, and um, my agent didn't agree with it. So after our game in Ufa, I ended up being told that I'm going to fly home and to meet them in a room. So I went to meet them in this room. Nobody was there. They checked out for 3 hours. And I went down and I found the media guy, and I was like, hey, buddy, if I'm going home, somebody's flying me home. I'm not flying myself home because they still haven't paid me yet. And I had a big roommate named Chris Simon, and he encouraged them to help me get home. So I ended up getting a flight home from there. Like I said, he was my roommate, and we didn't know what was going on at this time, but at like 12 o'clock at night, we had these two Russian guys knock on the door, and the only thing they could say is, you go home now. And we were sleeping, and he just looked at me. He's like, hey, man, you text me when you get to the airport. Because I had no idea what was happening. This was back like when the KHL was first starting a little bit. And they brought me to the airport at 12 o'clock at night, and we ended up getting there like 1:30 or something. My flight was at 7:30, so I was just chilling in the airport for that long. Never got paid. They stole my sticks. I think when I was in Mississauga, they gave me, like, the equipment manager there, it was unbelievable. He gave me like 14 new sticks.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I was on a flight home after that, and I didn't know what to do, and that's why I was like, I'm not going to the A, I'm not going to the coast, so I'm going to stay at home. I don't know what to do right now. I just need to relax. This was kind of a crazy experience for me. So yeah, I'm gonna just relax. And the funny thing is with that team, I would watch their games to see if their goalies were using my sticks. And at one point, I said, "You got to be kidding me!" Because I have a pretty special curve. I was like, "That's my stick because it's blue." And that's my curve, because I could see that curve from the TV. Everybody knows, like, anybody who's seen my curve knows that's my curve. I was pissed. And yeah, so I ended up at Guelph. A lot of my friends were there, so it was kind of a chill time for me. It was a lot of fun. Still guys I keep in contact with till today. And yeah, it was a good experience.
There was something that I noticed that was quite random. I don't know if it's linked to your time in Novokuznetsk, but you played in Ukraine.
Yeah, it is a little bit linked. So in one of our preseason tournaments, this Kiev team, uh, they were in the tournament and they saw me
Mhm.
play. And this team had an application for the KHL for the following year. They wanted to move into the KHL. So they're building a team to move in there next year. And I would have been the backup for that next season into the KHL.
Uh-huh.
They would have signed somebody with more experience, and then I would have learned. I would have been cheap for them. Also,
Mhm.
new team. Um, you could see like they had a draft before. They think they drafted like Mrazek and
Mhm.
a few other Czech guys actually. Um, but the team never ended up happening because that revolution happened, and they ended up burning, Donetsk. They burnt
Yeah,
that rink
yeah.
too. It was just complete chaos. I don't think the rink ever got finished for that. I don't know if it did. Um, our coach was Milos Volan, actually.
Yeah.
So I built a relationship with him there. I really like to play for him. He's an amazing man, very competitive guy.
Mhm.
I like playing for him a lot. He's a really good man. And yeah, it was just kind of a crazy year. That was nuts. They actually kicked us out of the league because our owner was on one side of the politics that wanted like to separate from what they were doing, and the
Mhm.
Donetsk owner was the other side, and he was friends with the I don't know if it's the president of Ukraine or prime minister. I don't know what it is, and he shut our team down. He cut the finances off.
Oh my
So
God.
I think we were like 30, 40 points ahead of everybody,
Mhm.
and we didn't play in playoffs.
Mhm.
The season was over. So I flew out of there, I think 2 weeks before that revolution there happened in Kiev.
I don't think that there's another player that will ever come on this podcast that will have a more crazy year than that.
I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned it again briefly earlier. Your first proper like stint was in Sweden for Rögle
Yeah.
in the Allsvenskan. What was it
Yeah.
like there? How was it different to North America?
Um, so I'll say it like this. I think what the Swedes do with hockey is perfect.
Mm.
They have everything figured out. It was such a great experience to play there. I loved every minute of being there. I was like I said before, when you're a kid, you want what's next. You want what's next. And I just wish when I was there, I would have just enjoyed being there more and wanting to stay there and build there, because you don't know when you're a North American guy coming over, especially at that age, um, how great of an opportunity that was, and how you can build your career from there.
Mhm.
Um, and we had a full-time goalie coach, which was great. He works for Zurich now. He actually works with Hrubets.
Cool.
So there's another link there. Yeah, it was just incredible. I liked playing there a lot. I wish I would have wanted to stay, but I wanted to go back home again. I'm always fighting for playing in the NHL or playing in the AHL, because I believe I could. I believe I could do it. And um, yeah, I just wish I would have put more time into there and being there and growing there, because it's a great place to develop.
Nowadays, you've got so many guys going through Sweden,
Yeah.
Finland in particular, as netminders, and now even the Czech Republic. It's you're getting more and more guys. Like I think Stetska was one.
Yeah.
Vítkovice, he's now probably poised to make his debut in Seattle sometime soon.
I
Uh,
hope so. Like, what is it? Skark just played last night
yeah,
for the Islanders. I thought he played really well. His team looked pretty tired from the game before, but I thought he did a great job.
yeah, and the other one, of course, that's popped out. I mean, his route has been different. isn't kind of Czech made, shall we say? But
Oh,
it's
Dobesh?
Dobesh, yeah.
Yeah. He's good.
He's
I like
very,
watching
very
him.
good. And
Very
he's
good.
got a very distinctive style as well. I think when you watch him, like like he stays in your mind, I think.
Big and calm.
Yeah, exactly. And the glove hand as well. He kind of paws at the puck. I don't know how to describe it really,
Yeah,
but
he
it's
like
kind
rips
of
it out of the air.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's becoming though a more kind of well-trodden route for NHL talent going through Europe, being patient and kind of sticking by it.
Yeah. I would say the other thing for that year too was it was my first time in Europe, and in North America, you play so many games, so you have to work out a little more, to be, or you work out, but not like, sorry, you you just play more. And then when I was over here, I had so much time to work out because the games were just on the weekends for the most part and the odd game during the week. I worked out way too hard,
Mhm.
and I was toast when the playoffs came. The end of the
Mhm.
year, I was on a downward spiral because I was just so tired from everything I did the start of the year, being on the ice like 35 minutes before everybody and working out in the gym too much and playing 40 games, and it was too much for me. I learned from that.
Mhm. Yeah, and as you say, you went back to the coast after that, didn't you? For was
I
it a game
was
or two?
so again, I signed a PTO with LA,
Hmm.
and I was there for about 3 months. And then like Jonathan Quick, he broke his wrist, and then he healed like Superman. Otherwise, I would have started in Manchester. And then they wanted to send me to the coast, and I was like, I don't want to go there. So I left and went home trying to find something in Europe. Nothing was coming. I was young. I didn't really have any resume or any reason for somebody to give me a job. So I was like emailing people every day, emailing this person, looking at teams that sucked. And I was just like, okay, these guys need a goalie or something. I was like, give me a tryout. I'll come over. I'll make your team. I know it. And I had a connection through Vítkovice, so I had some numbers there. So I was talking to them, and in the meantime, like I needed to play too. So
Hmm.
I went to Ontario, or sorry, not Ontario. I went to Utah. We ended up playing in Ontario uh, for like a week, and I didn't like it. I didn't like being there. Wasn't for me. So at the end of that, like I had kind of already a deal arranged with Vítkovice that I was going to come on a tryout, and yeah, I ended up flying over there, and everything worked out well with the tryout. Wasn't the best year at all. I had a lot of trust at the beginning, and
Hmm.
then I remember I got pulled against Pilsen in the first period. We were down 2-0, and after the first period, they made a change, and we came back and won. And then I didn't see the ice for a long time. The only time I saw it is when the guy got pulled. And I remember I went in against Litvinov one night, and that was when they won the championship. They're a powerhouse, and I had a knee contusion, so I was out for a
Hmm.
little bit, and it was just kind of a disaster that year. But I loved the league, and I loved the country, so I was very hungry to come back.
Hmm. And how did you fare with the language and the adaptation kind of off the ice?
I had terrible grasp on the culture. Terrible. I had no idea what was going on. I would mistake words quite a bit. I taught myself how to read words I needed to know.
Hmm.
Um, and that's about it, really. I didn't even like beer then, which was a problem. So I learned to like it. I remember like getting served this huge glass of Pilsner. I was like, how am I going to drink this whole thing? But no, I liked it a lot. I started to learn and indulge in the culture over the next few years.
Yeah, and then you moved on to Pardubice next. You went slightly more west in the country, and your playing time and I think you mentioned it there, the trust was certainly there because you played 41 games out of a 52 game season.
Yeah, so that was something else that came from another tryout. So when I was in Vítkovice, we played Pardubice in playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I didn't like, I was like, well, this is weird. But their like staff and their goalie coach were watching me in the mornings because I was on the ice. I wasn't playing. And I remember them watching me and then like I guess they were asking like, hey, why isn't this guy playing? And I don't know what was said. And then over the summer, I got an email about, because I was, like I said, I've emailing everybody, man, like
Mm-hmm.
trying to find a job, like, oh, I want to play hockey. I know I can do it. And I told them like, hey, if you need a goalie, I'll pay my way over. I'll give me a tryout. Give me somewhere to stay. If it works, pay for my flights, like everything that's included in that kind of stuff. And I'm going to make your team. I can help you guys. So I ended up coming over. So excited. Had a great training camp. I still talk to the goalie coach on and off to this day. I really liked working with him. He was different. He taught me a lot of different things I still use off the ice, on the
Have you got
ice.
any examples?
He really worked on my eyes.
Oh,
Like he was like, you warm up your body, you warm up your mind, you stretch your body, you stretch your mind by thinking and everything, but you don't stretch your eyes, you don't warm up your eyes. And I was like, no. And he's like, well, let's do it. So, you'd follow a tennis ball, you'd move your eyes sporadically in different spots really quickly, just tracking tennis balls differently, hand-eye coordination drills, foot drills, just different things on the ice. It was kind of like, I would say old school Czech, but I liked it because I'd never had anything like that. Like I said before, I had like Jaguar's goalie coach was very robotic. And now I'm getting more Hasek, like, because this guy learned from Hasek's goalie coach, Brook, more Hasek like stuff. And I thought it was so cool. So I had a great camp, and then we were leaving for Switzerland, and they just told me like, hey, like you earned your spot. Here's your contract. You can keep it, or you can go try something else. And I was like, no, I'm gonna stay. Like I want to be on this team. And I was originally, I was supposed to be the backup or the 1B, sorry. And our other goalie didn't have a great start to the season, and then they put me in, and I played well. And then I got another game, and I was okay. It was a derby game. We lost to Hradec. And then I ended up getting another game, and they liked my puck handling and relieving the pressure on the D and competitiveness. And then I think I played 18 games in a row at one point,
mm-hmm.
which was great. I had all that trust from Richard Kral and Boleslav now. He was our coach at that point, and then Draisaitl came in. And I really enjoyed playing for him too. He gave me a lot of trust. And, the fans, like playing at home, you felt bigger because you had that whole fan behind you. The fan base was great. And it was just really, really enjoyable place for me to be.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask, as a foreign player, how did you connect and bond with the fans so well? Especially in Pardubice, I remember it. And in fact, every single fan base, they all mentioned to me, all the people who messaged me in with questions for you. I had one guy say Boleslav legend. I had one guy say Pardubice legend, and I had another guy say Hradec legend. So it's what exactly did you do? I mean, I've seen clips of you going into the crowd with megaphones, I think, and all
So
sorts of things.
kind of like this. I went to a lot of games in Toronto when I was a kid, and it's a library in there. It sucks. And when I was in Sweden too, you know what? It was a good atmosphere. There was people singing and playing drums, but when I went to Czech, uh, you feel like a kid again for some of those games. Like you get nervous again. Like you can feel the fans. And I was just thinking, I don't remember which game in particular it was. I think it was against Homotov at home. It's my first win. It's tough to get wins that year. I was like, you know what? Like they work as hard as we do the whole game, sometimes even harder because sometimes we suck. And I'm going to appreciate them because they help. Like on this penalty kill, I was tired, but they were going bananas. So I need to let them know I love them, like thank you. Um, I'm not quite Hudacek level. I don't agree with everything he does. I think that's kind of that's on a totally different level. But I just really wanted to get the message across that there's no us without them, and the game wouldn't be as fun if they sat on their hands and if they were quiet like North Americans, or if they just cheered when we scored or whatever, like they put their all into that game, and it was incredible. I remember my first derby, like I was like, holy crap, like because I had derbies in Sweden too. I was a part of the biggest derby there as well. And when I came to Czech, I was like they had the SWAT team outside. The K9 unit was practicing while we were practicing to get the dogs used to the hockey going on. I was just like, remember, I was like, what's going on Friday? Like, what is this? Like, is there like the president coming or something? And they're like sniffing in the rink, or what's going on? He's like, no, we're playing Reddits. And I was just like, okay. And then I showed up and I'm like, okay, that's what he's talking about. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's the atmosphere. It's very hard to put it into words because I mean, tribal maybe is probably the
Yeah.
best one that I can come up with. It's a serious business, and like I said before, to be accepted, like you still are, in two fan bases that vehemently hate each other, and they both revere you as somebody that is kind of a legend of both clubs, speaks volumes about the effort that you went to kind of show your appreciation to them.
That's a crazy thing is because like before I went to when I finished in Boleslav, I was trying to go back to Pardubice because I loved it there. But there just wasn't room at the time.
Mhm.
And I had a nice offer from Hadits to come there, and I was thinking about it. Like, I actually had an offer from Hadits after my first season in Pardubice,
Mhm.
which people probably don't know about, and it was for more money, and they were going to Spangler Cup, but I loved playing in Pardubice, and I didn't want to be that guy who jumped ship for the more money to the rival team. And I was happy where I was, and I was comfortable with what they gave me. Also, but when went to the other team, I was like, oh, I wonder how that I'm gonna come back to this.
Mhm.
And it's a business, it's my career. If you worked at Albert and Billa offered you a job, but Albert didn't. They're kind of rivals. Like, you're not going to take a job because and feed yourself and your life because they're rivals. So that was that
Mhm.
kind of situation. But in both places, both incredible fans, and for those 60 minutes, everybody hates each other.
Mhm.
Like that's why that's a derby, man. Like
Yeah.
we hated, like when I was in Pardubice, we hated Reddits. Like we hated those guys for 60 minutes, like hated them. But I would see the imports in Prague, we'd hang out, but for those 60 minutes, like I don't care, I hate you. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And same when I was in Reddits, it's like for those 60 minutes, like those guys I used to play with, like I don't care anymore, buddy. Like this is the derby, man. And we hated you. But
Mhm.
after that, it's like why did why did I hate you? Like we're just playing hockey, but it's just those were intense. I think
Yeah.
the one my first game back in Pardubice playing for Hadits, we won 4-1. And I was actually super sick. I had whatever flu was going around in Czech at this time. And in that game, like it's a derby, you cannot like I'm not sitting out a derby.
Mhm.
That game I lost 12 pounds
Wow.
and I was done. Luckily we went into like the international break at Christmas, and I was done. And I think that's probably what went into. I tore my groin shortly after that in credits.
Mhm.
I missed some time, so I only played 29 games the 1 year there. Um, that probably had a lot to do with it because I put everything into that game, and my body was toast.
Yeah, yeah. It's do you know what? I was speaking with the fans and their questions, and I was thinking to myself, like, what is it about your game as well? Because people mention about your game. What is it that really struck a chord with them? And I think as well, it was because you play with emotion when you're in goal as well. Like, I think a lot of the Czech goalies, they're absolutely excellent, but you look at the style and it's very, very withdrawn, robotic, but it works. It really works. But you were something totally fresh and different. You were coming out, playing the puck. You always seem to have time on the puck as well. And I think that's a marker. I was always taught that in any sport, if you watch somebody and they always look like they've got time, then they are a class player in what they're doing. You can't teach that kind of thing. And I think those are the things as well that really kind of stay with the fans as well. It's like I can't think of another goalie that we've had since that has kind of been your style.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody really either. That's I think though now a lot more after I came. I don't know if it totally has a lot to do with me, but a lot of guys are handling the puck a little bit more now
Mm-hmm.
than they used to. And especially when I was on the team, our coach would always ask the second guy to get out and stop the puck too, and start
Mm-hmm.
playing it so that the D are not confused when he goes in and plays. Like
Mm-hmm.
because they're starting to get the pucks in the corner and the guys are hitting them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I really enjoyed that, and um, I think when I went to Boleslav and I played for František Viborny, he that was the best year for puck handling for me,
Mm-hmm.
and Boleslav because we had Hika, we had Klepish, we had Musil, Lens, and it was basically like when I got the puck, everybody goes. Like if they shoot a lazy puck in and I catch it, everybody's going. And who else was on that team? So Latel, super fast guy. Um,
Yeah, played in the UK for a number of
yes,
years.
yes, he did. Yeah, so that was, I think, like I played pretty good in Raditz and in Pardubice, but the second half of the 1 year in Boleslav, that was probably my best hockey in Czech because playing for Viborny was unbelievable.
Yeah, and that is very much reflected in the fact that you were called up to play for the USA national team. You played in the Deutschland Cup, and of course, you were selected to go to the Olympic Games, which is one of the biggest honors I think that you could ever be asked to do for your country.
That was amazing. One of the best things about that was too is if I didn't make that team, we had a training camp in the mountains in Czech that
Mhm.
was like 2.5 weeks, 2 a days, two workouts, two practices a day. So I was like, oh my God, if I don't make this team, I'm gonna have to do that and I'm gonna die. So that was one good thing that came out of that too. But yeah, it was. If I would have known I wasn't gonna play a minute there, if I was just gonna sit on the bench and watch, which I'm totally okay with too. I just wanted to give my partner there all the support that he needed. So the team, he was in the net, so the team did best. I was always ready to go, but I would have probably enjoyed it a little more. I would have went and saw Sean White, you know, win
Mhm.
his event.
Yeah.
My parents were actually at that. They called me like, "Hey, this Sean White guy, he's pretty good." I'm like, "Yeah, he's pretty good." And I would have, probably enjoyed it a lot more if I would have just relaxed a little bit. But when you're there, it goes by so quickly. You're just trying to be prepared every day just in case you go in and into the game and don't make a fool of yourself in front of the whole world. Um, and just really, get to know your teammates. Met a lot of pretty cool people on that team. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. One of the funny thing too was every day in the cafeteria, sitting at McDonald's was the best player in the tournament with his hood
Really?
on, crushing McDonald's. That was Datsuk
Oh my God.
every day. Every day that guy loved McDonald's every single day. We'd walk in and be like, wow, Pavel's eating McDonald's again. And you go out and see him, he's like, okay, he had like 3 points.
And do you have any stories about the Olympic Village, what it was like to be kind of staying around there?
So with the US team, very fortunate that we have such a big organization and big support from back home. We had our own building that was only USA athletes, and then we also had a building just on the other side of the fence of the village.
Mhm.
So we didn't really have too much of the same experience as the village as others. We were kind of isolated a little bit more. Like they flew chefs over for us with all our meals from, things that we eat at home over in our own private cafeteria too. Um, so it was a little bit different, maybe I don't know, not like, you know, others where you meet so many people from other countries because there
Mhm.
are people from other countries in the same building and you're always kind of at the cafeteria with them. We were on our own quite a bit. I can give you one cool thing actually about the Olympics. This is one thing that um, was so interesting. At the last night, we were out. We lost to the Czechs in a shootout. Frickin' Kokel was unbelievable in the shootout, and I ended up playing with him after that. He did the same moves on me in practice, but luckily I knew them by then. We went over to this restaurant, and these guys came up to us after, and they introduced themselves, and they knew our names, and they were like, I don't know if they were what they were, but they're private sent over from the US like to watch us, like as
Mhm.
part of security. And they're like, yeah, we know we've been watching you guys the whole time. We know exactly where you are and where you've been. And we had our leader who was a military guy, and we looked at him, he's like, yeah, these are our guys. Like they've just been scouting you guys this whole time, keeping track of you, making sure you're safe,
My
like
God.
following. It was crazy.
So it's like
We
some.
had beers with them after and this stuff called soju that's Korean, but um yeah, they knew everything. It was shocking, but that's the type of level of that the US organization has to protect their athletes, which is great.
Yeah, no, it is, especially with the from the safety standpoint. It's
Yeah.
something that, probably when you found out you were shocked in many different ways, but
Yeah.
overall it's probably a pretty good thing.
Yeah, yeah. You felt very safe after that. Yeah.
Cool. And after that, you went to Mountfield, which we've touched on. Are you still in touch with any of your teammates from your days in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, off and on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I spoke with a guy played there actually. I can't tell you who, but I spoke with a guy played there like 2 days ago uh
Okay.
about some stuff. I talked to the goalie coach there quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Mhm.
I play against a teammate that was teammates with the Reddits there, Alessio. I play against him. I played against him for a few years after that in Germany. Yeah, no, I liked it there a lot. There was just one guy working there at the time that they ended up getting rid of. Um, that if he wasn't there, I would have stayed.
Mhm.
At that time, unfortunately, he was kicking around and um, wasn't a player favorite, that's for sure. And I think the players went and said later on that this guy has to go, and they ended up getting rid of him the following season. And I think Alish Kamonicek's done a great job with that team, and
Yeah.
playing for Martinets there was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, at that time, he was a really fresh idea, fresh coach in the league, and it worked out really well. I think that was probably the best talent-wise team that I was on. I think we could have really done something. Unfortunately, we ran into Bruno, and when Bruno just turned into playoff mode
Yeah.
and smoked us that year in the first round. Other than that, though, I think that was the most talented team I've been on in Europe, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. It
We were
was
very good.
when I looked through the list of players in the team. Yeah, really, really strong. And I think was that the year it was actually Bruno had won it 2 previous years, hadn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
And this was I can't remember where they came this particular year, but they would have had. Did they have Peter Mueller then as
they
well?
did. They did.
Yeah,
He got a hat trick on me in the second game.
yeah. And he off the ice, he's a really, really nice guy as well.
Awesome, dude. Awesome.
Really nice. Yeah, I've got no, absolutely nothing but respect for him because I've got actually something I can share about yesterday. Um, I saw him speaking with disabled fans for a good sort of 15, 20 minutes after the game, and he was unbelievable with them. Unbelievable. And that's the kind of thing that people don't see, they don't talk about. But it was such a touching moment to see how much he cared about these people and how good he was at listening to them. And it was just very, very wholesome. So that takes a really, really nice human being to be like that and have that time.
Yeah, I've been around him a few times, training with him in the summer. And actually my first NHL camp, I think he was just traded to Colorado. And he's just genuinely just a really nice guy. Like that's
Yeah.
just genuine. So I was happy that he came to Czech, not happy that I
Mhm.
had to play against him, but
No one is as a goalie.
yeah, but he's quite the talent.
He is, yeah. You see him on the power play. He's lining up on the hash marks. He comes for the one timer, and you can only hope from that point on, really.
Exactly.
And after the Czech Republic came a move to Villacher in
Yep.
Austria. And what kind of made the ice hockey league your next step in your career?
Yeah, so like I had another year in credits, but it was just kind of a not a great ending. You know, we lost in the first round, and
Hmm.
like I said, there was a guy in the management there that wasn't really um, fun to have around. So I think I needed a change. I also had, you know, I just needed a change. Fortunately, I met my wife that last year there, so I probably should have stayed and checked.
Hmm.
Um, but I ended up signing in Germany, but not for that season, but for the following years,
Hmm.
the following 3 seasons with Bremerhaven. And I needed a place basically to play, so I was kind of waiting, and I didn't want to go to Bratislava at that point.
Hmm.
Still going to wait for something in Czech or something to open. And this goalie got hurt, and it just seemed like a good opportunity to go down there for a year. It's a beautiful place. Um, Two Finnish coaches, so I was looking forward to playing for them and learning, you know, their culture and their idea of hockey. The goalie coach, I speak to him. I don't know, every other week, a
Hmm.
couple times a month, to this day. Yeah, so it was kind of just I needed a place to go, and I was going to play a lot there. I played every game, played 47 games in a row, basically. One time I was sick, and then I played every other game.
Hmm.
So it was a good spot for the year, and yeah, I really enjoyed living there. Different
Yeah.
hockey. It's kind of more wide open. It's still fast, but less defense. Obviously, less skilled players there than there is in the extra league per team. You know, like the top teams in Austria, like Red Bull and Klagenfurt and Bolzano. They're pretty good. They could
Hmm.
play in any league. But there were some bad teams too. That was, sometimes it wasn't really even that fun to play. I'd get a shutout, but I didn't really do anything. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was good.
Yeah, 12 save shutout or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, yeah. And did was the ability level quite different between the two leagues? You mentioned that the top teams were like pretty decent, but
At
like
that time, at that time, there was still some really high end players in Red Bull and Klagenfurt,
yeah.
like Chad Kaloric. He came over from Mannheim, and he was like a 50-point guy in Mannheim. And he was in Salzburg. Klagenfurt had some big guys. Bolzano had some big names, but yeah, it's not as deep. Like
Hmm.
in Trinidad, it's not like, there's no Ruzicka, there's no Vrana, there's no, like if you look at Sparta, obviously the league in Czech's different now too because there's no KHL. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of talent back home. Um, so I would say that the discrepancy in the league now because of COVID and because of the KHL being gone for options for Czech guys, it's a bigger difference now than it was then.
Yeah, and also, of course, the financial situations in several Czech clubs has changed. I mean, Pardubice in
Yeah.
particular, they're bringing in guys like really big name players, and you look at the table even, and it's really really close. Like you've got like I think Vítkovice is currently bottom, but they're like I mean, there's like five teams that
Yeah.
that are
I looked at it today. They're like 3 points from being safe.
yeah. And they've just got a very, very good goalie in there as well, Dominic Hrachovina.
Yeah.
And he's a very, very solid goalkeeper. Very, very solid.
He's going to help them out big time.
Oh yeah, I was
Same
at
with the
their
coach, though. The coach is pretty good, too.
oh yeah, Varadja, yeah.
Yeah.
He's I mean, multiple time champion. And yeah, I was at their first game, his first game for Vítkovice at the weekend, and he committed like several robberies. And
You sat in that cold rink, eh? In Olomouc.
uh, don't even get me started. I think Olomouc, I love the city, I like the team, but going to the rink, I have to layer up. I'll be kind and say I'm layering up.
I've been lucky. So in the 5 years I was there, I only play. There's only one game in Olomouc I didn't play, and
Oh
every time I was there, I end up getting like 35, 40 shots. So I was sweating and I was warm. Other than one night when I was like, I can't feel my toes.
yes,
And that was with Boleslav. I remember that game. I was like, I need to get my skates off. I need to get in the shower because I can't feel my feet. But yeah, that rink they could probably use an upgrade.
yeah, well, I think that's a very good way of putting it. And when I read the history of the rink as well, it wasn't actually built to probably be there now. It was
Mhm.
built, I think, a long time ago, and you can tell by the roof that it's not exactly
No,
um yeah, it's not keeping the cold out. In fact, like I feel like it goes down a couple of degrees when you get into the arena than it does when you go
I was gonna
out.
say if it's +2 outside, it's -4 in the rink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's not to put anybody off going to Olomouc as a
No,
place, because
no, it's sick.
yeah,
Sick fans and now the team's pretty good too.
yeah.
Over
Do you
the
know what
past few years.
they're so hard to play against. They're so hard to play against. It's like if you want like the prototypical team that could be anybody on their day, it's them. They can give anyone a difficult match. They'll throw hits, they'll grind you out, they'll clog the neutral zone. They'll do everything it takes to make it a really, really unpleasant game.
Yeah, they've always been a big character team. They've always been annoying. The black helmets and the red jerseys and all that stuff. It was just like they're kind of like when we play the Finnish team in international stuff. Like they never quit. Like it's going to be a 60-minute game. You're not going to win the game in 40 minutes. You were playing 60 minutes
Yeah.
to
And
get the victory.
you're gonna go home bruised as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
Yeah. Cool. And we get on to your time now in Germany. So Fishtown Penguins, 2.5 seasons in the
Yeah,
Dell.
yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, my grandpa's from Berlin,
Hmm.
so I was able to get a German passport, and I was able to sign with Bremerhaven
Hmm.
with this, and yeah, it was a weird time because it was COVID, basically for the first 2 years I was there, so it wasn't really traditional hockey seasons. So yeah, it was different hockey. I had my first child was born during this time. It was kind of wild, bit of a blur. Those first couple
Yeah.
of years there, yeah.
And how was the standard of the Dell if we compare it to the Czech League, for example? Is there a big
It's the same.
difference?
I'd
Hmm.
say it's the same. Like there's 9 imports per team in the German league, so that helps. Help raise the level. It's the same. Like Berlin, Mannheim, Munich. This
Hmm.
is Sparta, uh, Pardubice, and like I guess this year Litvinov.
Hmm.
Trinets normally, Brno normally. So yeah, it's like there's Cologne's a very good team. The rinks are amazing in Germany. Like in Cologne, it's 18,500
Yes.
people. Try playing there in COVID when there's nobody in the rink. That was wild. Um, but yeah, the rinks are amazing. It's very NHL like at the rinks, like Munich's rink. Berlin's rink, Mannheim's, they're pretty sick. And then there's some older ones, but they kind of have more of the Czech feel where the fans are crazy and it's not like an NHL game. Yeah, it's the same. I would say like, oh, different hockey. So you can't really say what's better. It's just different.
Yeah, yeah. Just
But
a
I would
good,
say the same level.
and the fans as well. You mentioned that like some of them are pretty crazy. Is it on the same level as the Czech Republic generally?
I honestly, I don't think anything is.
Yeah.
Czech is like we have some derbies here. They're pretty good derbies, but like that's a normal game in Czech. You know,
Hmm.
the derbies in Czech are a totally different level, like I said earlier. The fans are great here, though. It's just that's not saying they're not. It's just saying like look at the World Championships. Every year, the World Championships, all the broadcasters say on TSN is this place is crazy, and it's like Latvia's playing Finland. You know,
Yeah.
it's not even it's Czech people at the game, but the Czech team's not even playing that night. And then when the Czech team plays, that's like the derby. You know, that's crazy. So I
Oh,
would just say like the passion that people in Czech Republic. I say Czech Republic too. I can't say Czechia. I like Czech Republic. I think that's
yeah.
a. I think it's beautiful. I like saying Czech Republic, so I will not say Czechia. Um, the passion for hockey is just through the roof. Like they live and die for their teams, for their
Yes.
favorite players. So it's hard to ever really compare anything to the Czech Republic, to be honest.
And you then spent a 10-game stint in Malmo in the SHL. So you kind of went full circle from your time in the
Well,
Scan.
yeah. So I was there for half a season. I played in 10 of 21 games or something like that I dressed
Yeah.
for. And then, yeah, so there was just a situation I was able to go there. Always wanted to play in that league.
Mhm.
I think it's the best league in Europe. Um, that is one place I absolutely love. I love
Mhm.
it in Malmo. Everything that was such a fun time. Everything, like I said, everything they do there is just like if we want to watch our practice from that day, I can watch it from four different angles on an app on my phone to see a drill that I did, the whole practice, then the
Wow.
goalie practice too. Every single clip, every single situation in the game on your phone, sent to your phone in the special app we have. Um, we had like everything from like I don't know anything you need, like proteins, energy drinks, whatever it is, the physios, the room itself. Like we had special lights in our dressing room for morning. We had special lights that were beyond during the game that actually are supposed to give you energy. And then after the game, we have a setting for lights that calm you down. They're a little more of a red tint. Like this whole place was just thought of to for athlete performance. We had chips in our like chest protectors that measured our body, how it was moving, um, what the heart rate was at. It was insane. Like everything there was just top notch. My apartment was beautiful, right downtown, 5 minute walk to the rink, to the main train station, to the big mall. My daughter's kindergarten was unbelievable. And then, to top it off, we were in relegation, and relegation in Sweden is a massive thing, probably, similar to what it is in the football league in the UK.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'll put it like this. So say with the TV contract, you get 10 million from the TV contract to spend, okay? And then if you go down, you get like 800,000.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that means your assistant equipment manager and their assistant are losing their jobs. The
Yeah.
goalie coach is losing his job. The second assistant physio is losing their job. The assistant coach, the second assistant coach is losing his job. The other guys are taking a pay cut. Um, you know, guys on the team are leaving because the contracts are voided,
Yeah.
unless it states that it's for both leagues. Assistant GM is gone. You know what I mean? Like people are losing their jobs,
There's a lot at stake.
and the fans, they want to watch the team in the top league. So we ended up playing Brenus. In that, I was hot when I first went there, and then I had a couple of tough games, and then the other guy went in and he got hot, and then I played my last 2 games and I played pretty well. I think I had we beat Frölunda 3-2 in overtime. I had like 42 saves, and then we beat Luleå. This trip to Luleå, this was the last game of the year. I had like 17 saves. We won 3-1, I think. And we were traveling the day before. Yeah, and when you're in Sweden, when you fly from Malmo, you have to stop in Stockholm and go from Stockholm and fly up to Luleå. When we stopped in Stockholm, our flight was delayed. Okay. Snowstorm, crazy snowstorm. So it got pushed. And I was sitting at dinner with the other imports and Carl Soderberg. And he's like, we're not going tonight. He's like, they're going to cancel it. And we are like, no way. There's no way. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to travel up to Luleå? Because Luleå is way up close to the Arctic Circle, like close to the North Pole. And they're like, we're not traveling up there on a game day. And sure enough, we got snowed in. 2 guys actually had to fly because their tickets were valid. So they got on, they flew up, slept there. And then the next morning at like 6 o'clock, the rest of us flew up. Took our crap to the rink, went and basically had a day bed, had a nap, had our pregame, went and played the game. Luleå was a tough place to play. They ended up playing pretty good. So that was one of the last games. That was the last game of the season there. And then I didn't start the playoffs, and then the other guy lost. So I went in for game 5, and we ended up winning 1-0. And I think it was the best game of my life. It was such an intense game and such a like relief and celebration, because you saw in the faces of the people who will have jobs next year, that don't have to go on unemployment basically until they find something in the organization, and how happy they were with us. And just, I did not want to have that on my resume, that I was part of a team that got relegated.
Yeah.
And actually, the crazy thing too about this is the GM that gave me my first job in Rogla was an assistant coach on the other team. That was his hometown team.
Oh, wow.
So after after the game, like, we beat them in Brenus, so in Javla, up at the top, and like, you could hear, like you say, you hear a pin drop. You could literally hear like if somebody dropped a coin in the stands. Like, it was dead. People were crying. It was just like, we were celebrating, but then when we realized, like, okay, yeah, we're happy, but we looked around, we're like, we need to get off the ice. Like, this is, their guys were like sitting on the ground crying, and not all of them, but some of them, like, it was just like, this is like a horrible part of sports. I was like, I didn't want this to happen. This was Boris Salming's team. This was Brenus. This was like the Toronto Maple Leafs of Sweden. Yes. And to see that, I was just like, I said to the coach, it's like, man, like, I don't know what to say to you right now, because he's still a friend of mine. I still message him. And I was just like, I'm so sorry, but I'm so sorry for what happened here. I wish we both could win. At that time, like, I'm a pretty competitive guy, but at that time I was like, I wish we both could win. I don't want to see anybody like that. I don't want to be a part of this ever again, this relegation stuff. So yeah, that was quite the ending. And then, it just didn't work out. They had 2 goalies under contract there. And they couldn't get rid of one of them. So I was a free agent after that. I would no. That was a great place for me. That was really, really fun to be around.
Yeah, some great memories. And
Yeah.
like you say, the mixture of emotions and the elation of staying up and kind of helping your guys avoid that kind of issue must have been overwhelming. But then to see the person who was so instrumental in your career on the other side of it, I can only imagine the split emotion that you must have felt. But I'm hoping that he's still doing okay.
Oh, well, you know what? They had a great season last year. They went back up into the SHL, and now they're first place. So he's doing very well.
Yeah. So short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah.
And that leads us on to more or less the present day, where you've been at Kassel Huskies in the Dell 2. what led you to go from Malmo to Kassel?
Well, so at that time, I basically most of the stuff was full in Germany,
Hmm.
and I was offered a very, very good contract here
Hmm.
for a long term. And I have two kids now and a wife, and it's not too far from Prague or
Hmm.
from Most, where my wife is from. So, if I would have been single, maybe it would have been different. Maybe I would have went somewhere, you know, for less money. Basically, is the easy way to put it.
Hmm.
In a higher league,
Hmm.
because I had offers from Finland, but for much different contracts than I have here. So I basically, it was a financial decision at the time,
Hmm.
and responsible one for my family. But I love it. This is a great, great, ambitious place. This team wants to move up. I would say, like, you remember when Kladno was in the second league, or Budovice was in the second league, and they were
Yes.
trying to break through, and they couldn't do it, and then finally, it ended up happening for them. I would say that's what this is kind of like, or
Hmm.
Modo in Sweden. They're
Hmm.
trying for so many years. Very ambitious team, great management, great ownership. Great city. Our apartments are amazing. We get treated very well.
Hmm.
Our coaching staff's great. The team is very competitive. We're not a DL2 team. You know what I mean? Like, we have pretty good rosters.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, it was. It's it's different hockey. That's for sure. Not as much defense. Um, here. So it's made me better.
Yeah.
For the Czech people, maybe it's a little bit more like Bago sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, like competitive Bago, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a lot of emphasis is on scoring goals on the other teams, and making entertainment, I guess. But our fans here are crazy. It's not cliche or me saying this. We have the best fans in the league for sure. Our place is nuts. It's sold out all the time. And like in playoffs last year, I can think of it. We won a game 7, and I can hear everything. I can hear how loud it was. I get chills on my hand from that game, just thinking about it, how crazy it was. So no, it's been a great experience here. My daughter's learned German, so now she speaks English, Czech, and German.
Wow.
Um, my son, he's only 2, so he's still learning English and Czech, so he's got those two down pretty good. Um, won't confuse him too much with the German right now, but
Yes.
I don't speak German at all. I'm learning Czech. Like, I know Czech, I can hear it and know pretty much like 80% of what's going on. Like, I'm still
Yes.
just because I'll question myself on what actually is being said. Um, Speaking it, I'm shy, so it's hard to get better because I
Hmm.
don't know if you ever have this. Like, sometimes you'll say something and you'll just be off by a little bit, and they'll have no idea what you're saying. So I don't even want to try that. Like, I'm just shy doing it, but I can read it. Um, I can read it pretty good. I can't, not complex things, but I'm hoping to get better at that. I'm taking lessons so that when my kids go to school in Prague, or they have their friends over or something, or if I'm working in Czech, I can speak to people,
Yeah.
not have to just revert to English. And obviously for my wife and her family too, I need to get better at Czech.
Yeah, and I was going to say you're kind of collecting passports. Maybe a Czech one could be on the horizon, so you'll have what
Yeah,
US, Canadian, German, and Czech. So
yeah. We'll see how that goes.
yeah, I think the other issue when like I face this when I speak Czech as well is like number one, like you say, the confidence issue because it's so far from our own language,
Yeah.
and secondly, Czech people generally are not used to listening to foreign people speaking Czech.
No,
So
the accent is terrible for them.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's like you say, like when you say something and it's only a little bit off, I think a lot of the time it isn't like Czech people kind of looking at you like, what the hell has he said? It's like the whole package of like, this guy is clearly not from here. He's actually speaking Czech, and I do understand him, but like he said it a bit wrong. It's this totally kind of strange situation for them, and it probably takes like 3 or 4 seconds to compute like what exactly is going on. So I don't think it's anything to do with us being terrible, and I don't think it's anything to do with them kind of like not understanding us. It's something like it's a totally new situation for all of us, really.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin's great as well at it.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I saw an interview with him. He was pretty good. Good for him. He's a smart guy, though.
Yeah. And speaking of Czechs, it would be remiss of me not to ask you about this guy, because in my youth, I used to grow up watching this guy very, very regularly. He was your assistant coach at Kassel last year, a guy called Jan Melekar.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was like a local legend of the British Second League. And I mean, like, he was a defenseman who on any given night could pocket like 2+2, something. He was like really, really good. Do you have any relationship with him at all?
Not anymore, really. I haven't spoken to him in quite a while, but he worked really hard for the team, and it's always positive guy. Tried to help everybody get better, and yeah, no, he was just a really good guy to have around.
Yeah. Right. So I think we can go on to a couple of the quickfire fan questions. So
Right.
the first one, would you consider moving back to the Czech Republic, and what are your plans for the future?
So never really left. I will be living in Prague, and yeah, I will be living in Czech. Lived there for a few summers, off and on. We're there quite a bit, actually, back in Prague. So yeah, we that will be my destination at some point.
Yeah. And any desire to play in the Czech Extraliga?
There is. So my daughter's going to start school soon, so my family will be living in Czech Republic, and obviously I'm playing hockey, and at some point I would like to play hockey in Czech again in front of them, and they can get a taste of the extra league when Daddy's playing. If that was possible. There's a lot of good young Czech goalies now, so it's a little bit harder. But for sure, I would definitely thinking about it.
I mean, there's got to be space for a guy with your background and your experience, and the fact that you come with that draw to the country. It means that it's less of a risk, right? Like you've got roots in the Czech Republic. If someone wants to roll the dice and give you that opportunity again, you're going to be more likely to stick around than the next guy.
I would probably say so. At the time when I was there, at that time I wanted to go to the KHL. Back when it was more of a thing to go there. So you're always trying to further your career. And I knew I was going to end up in Germany because of my passport at some point. But yeah, I need you to be a GM somewhere, man, so you can communicate that to somebody.
I'll do my best. I'll go into bat for you and see what we can come back with.
Definitely know the language more, and I'd be able to communicate with my teammates more and my coaches. And I think and I actually at that time I was not as good of a goalie as I am now. So yeah, I definitely think I could still do good work in the extra league.
Yeah, and I mean the SHL being on the resume is not going to hurt that either.
Yeah, I said, man, I need you to be an assistant GM or GM. I like how you think.
Yeah, you can find me a job as well while we're at it then. Yeah. What advice would you give to any young netminders or netminders in general? What things to work on?
Just have fun. Listen to your coaches. When I was younger, I didn't have the most fun because I was always I didn't think anybody should score on me. So it was always a lot of pressure I put on myself, but I didn't have as much fun as I should have and enjoyed, if you win 4-3 and you let 3 goals in, that's not bad. You won the game, you did your job. And I would say work on skating. Skating is number one. If you can skate, you can play.
Mhm.
So work on your skating, work on your hand-eye, and just have fun. Don't burn yourself out with hockey. Enjoy other things. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy your family. Because at some time hockey's not going to be everything.
Yeah, and that leads us beautifully onto the next question. What do you like to do in your spare time away from the ice?
Oh, you know what? I love seeing my kids play. I don't really care what game we play or what we're doing. I love being with my kids.
Hmm.
Um, when my wife and I are able to have a babysitter or have family watch our kids, I really like to spend time with her too. And um, you know, just whatever we're able to do, if it's go for a coffee or I don't know, if we went to a game room a couple weeks ago where it's kind of like a not escape room but similar type of thing, just enjoy life. I like golfing. Um, I bring my kids out there now. They like the golf cart.
Hmm.
My boy likes to steal my ball. So I always got to tell him when we get up to the ball, you can't touch daddy's ball. You got to leave it. Most of the time, I just end up bringing 2 balls because I know he's gonna go get it and hit it or kick it or something. So it's just being a dad basically. Is hockey's my job. I like to just be a dad when I'm at home.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a very wholesome answer as well. And we'll have to, after the camera stops rolling, exchange some kind of ideas for cafes in Prague because I got quite a few good ones. So,
It's you know what the funny thing is when I see people go to Starbucks when they're in Prague.
oh,
It's like,
terrible.
buddy, you have so many beautiful cafes, great coffee, great little, cakes, and you're going to Starbucks.
It's criminal. It's criminal.
It's insane.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So definitely that's something that me and my partner like doing as well. I think as you get older, you kind of appreciate these small little things more, right?
Yeah, I used to look for the Starbucks. Now I look where the Starbucks aren't because I
Yeah,
got
exactly.
to go somewhere else.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've received from a coach or teammate?
Huh. That's uh that's a tough one. But probably from my dad with my puck handling, to be honest. Basically telling me you're going to make mistakes. People are going to get upset with you when you do this and you make the mistake, but don't worry about it. Don't. He wasn't telling me not to listen to my coaches, but he's basically telling me to tune them out because one day it's going to help you. And
Mhm.
like I said before, my puck handling has separated me from a lot of goalies and got me some jobs.
Yeah, and you mentioned Turco earlier as well. I mean, there's a reason why it's called the Turco grip when you hold the stick, right? Like,
Exactly.
it's if he's your influence, you're going to be, especially when you're around the age that we are. I mean, he's a huge influence for me as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What's the toughest part about being a netminder?
I would say, well, you know what? If I make a mistake, everybody sees it. But if the left winger goes offside, 5 minutes later in the game, nobody's going to remember that.
Hmm.
But they'll remember if you let in the bad goal. So that's probably a tough thing is that all eyes are always on you and everything you do is amplified. And, speaking for me personally, it's kind of like if we lose, like it's kind of my fault. I let in more goals than the other guy. And if we win, it's like, yeah, it's great, but it's my job. So it's tough. I don't want to discourage people from being a goalie, but it's a tough job, and for me, it's a job that I think when I'm finished playing, um, will help prepare me for whatever. Because I don't think anything's going to be much tougher mentally than this job.
No, and I think
Other than being a mom, which I won't be a mom, but that's probably the only other mentally tough job when you're home with your kids. But yeah, other than that, it's a tough thing about a goalie. But when you make a big save and the fans are going nuts, Like actually, it's kind of funny. There's one time I wasn't feeling so great about my game, or and I went back because you can do it. I went back into the archives of the last derby I played with Hradec and Pardubice, and I had a penalty shot in the last period,
Mhm.
and I just screenshotted it on my phone because you could hear the fans cheering my name and going nuts, and the
Yeah.
emotion I had when I made the save on the penalty shot, and I watched that to make myself happy, make myself feel good. Um, those moments that you can have are great. I still remember that game. Pavlik, who plays in Boleslav now, he got a D-to-D pass, took a one-timer, went 5-hole, and we won with like 50 seconds left in the
Mhm.
game. We went up 2-1 in that derby, and it was crazy.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I mean, there's nothing quite like it. It's the way to describe it's crazy to describe it, but like I think being a goalie, like the human's natural reaction is to get out of the way of something that's heading at you at speed that could, hit you. So you have to retrain your mind completely to always be in the way of that thing. And I don't think people realize that how difficult that is, especially when we've got guys like, well, when you've got guys like Peter Mueller, like we said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
like ripping in slap shots at upwards of 160 kilometers per hour.
I would
It's,
like to see somebody go in the net and just kind of see, like, because when you're in the stands, the game looks slower, but when you go down closer to the glass, you can see how fast it is.
yeah,
So it'd
yeah,
be entertaining. Like I remember there was one year, I think it was Chiliak. He asked some fans from Brno to come down to practice to make him wear his equipment,
yeah.
and I would like to see somebody do that one time. Not in any type of making fun way, but just so somebody can have some perspective on. It's not so easy when you're in the net. Maybe from sitting up top, it looks easy, but it's not so easy when you're in the net.
What's the most underrated skill a goalie needs to have?
Underrated skill. Um, well, I could consider this a skill, is your body language.
Yeah.
If you can have a energy through your team that they believe in you and that everything's going to be okay.
Mhm.
I think that's not that you're rattled or that you're pissed or something. I think that's a very underrated skill.
Body language and being calm and exuding that kind of confidence in that is exceptionally important. I've got one here that's a quite funny one. It's from a team that you've played in the Czech Republic that we haven't mentioned.
Yep.
Uh, they said, "Thank you for the win in Šumperk."
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you tell
So
us about that?
I could tell you about that. That was so actually that game there was three other pretty good players that got sent with me to Šumperk. Like I said, when I was in Pardubice, I wasn't supposed to be the number one goalie so
Mhm.
fast. So I had to go, not had to, like, we had a cooperation with Šumperk. So I would, I went down to play a game. And the other three guys with me that went down were
Yeah.
Volženilak,
Yeah.
Tomaszak, and Shatka.
Wow.
Pretty good players, right?
Like that's pretty much an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the three of us who went down there and did that. And it was a derby game. I think we played in Sheriff.
Mhm.
And that was crazy. That was fun. I
Yeah.
had a bunch of shots. Fans were nuts. It was actually a great time. It was good for me to go down and play in that game. Um, you know, on the way home from that game, the so we had to drive there for this game. It's another
Mhm.
little funny story with this. So I don't know. We put all our stuff in one of those big sprinter vans, and there was another guy. I think it was Dratina, and I think that was his name. And he was driving. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't know how to drive. Like I could drive stick, but I didn't want to drive it. I didn't want to drive that big thing anyway. On the way home, I'm napping, and all of a sudden the car's slowing down. And these are young guys. They don't have so much money at this time, not like they do now. That's for sure. And nobody put gas in the car. So we had to push the sprinter van back to the arena in Pardubice the last little bit, not too far, but the last little bit because we ran out of gas on the way home from that game.
Yeah. Wow, that is a pretty funny story.
Yeah,
I'm just getting images of like Bojan Ilek behind the
yeah,
car, like Just, I mean, the guy's the size he is, he probably didn't need much help,
He
but
wasn't that big back then. None of those guys were, but you could tell they were all going to be pretty good.
yeah, yeah. And two other goalies, I'm just looking at their roster. Svoboda, who's in Liga, and of course Bartoszak as well, who he's had his trouble off the ice, but there's no question about his ability on it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Who's the funniest teammate you've played with?
Oh,
You can shout out a few of these because it's probably going to be impossible.
funniest teammate here. Oh, honestly, probably Crystal. That guy was crazy. The stuff that he'd come up with. Oh, there's a lot. I mean, that's a tough one right now, but since you mentioned Crystal, he's on my mind. Um, there was some funny. So like Roman Kuchenberg and Hradec was pretty funny. Kokal was pretty funny.
Yeah,
Even when I didn't understand everything they were saying, I could tell it was funny. Um, it was yeah, pretty funny guys there.
yeah, cool. And if you could trade places with one teammate for a day, who would it be and why? So it can be any teammate you've had.
Oh, you think here? I don't know, man. Any teammate?
Hmm.
Well, probably my buddy Kyle Clifford because he played in LA, and I'd like to be in the sun for a day.
Yeah,
That's about it. Other than
yeah,
that, I'm pretty content with pretty happy with how things are here.
yeah, perfect. And I think the way that we can end it is, would you like to give a message to all of the fans who sent in messages and questions for you? Because you are a fan favorite, so it'd be pretty nice to end with you kind of saying hello or whatever you want to say to them.
Yeah, basically, thanks for making those years the best years I've had playing hockey, um, and for helping me develop as a goalie and a person. And miss you guys, and I hope I can maybe see you again soon.
Perfect. I think that's a really nice way to end. So, Brandon, thank you so much for your time. You've been very generous with it.
Thank you. It's
All
fun
the
being.
best for the future, and I hope the season ends well for you.
Thanks.